Well, I think one of the strengths of Participation Cymru is that it provides a service that's available to all organisations in all sectors. So hopefully all the organisations are receiving the same messages and we're being consistent about the messages that we're sending to people. I think another strength is the flexibility in the way that it approaches training. So although you do a number of obviously set training courses, you're also happy to do bespoke training, which I think is important in local authorities because lots of local authorities have differing needs and differing staff memberships and obviously the local authority members themselves. So I think flexibility is really important. And also I think that Participation Cymru has proved itself very good at listening to its customers, I'm calling them customers, and providing a service that meets their specific needs.
Well, the main strengths of Participation Cymru is it's worked with such a breadth of organisations that obviously has picked up lots of various good practices from elsewhere and lots of ideas. And the thing is as well, as part from it's been very responsive to our needs as well. So it's very open to suggestions about how to actually extend sort of the various ideas of public participation. But it's also gleaned a lot of ideas from other organisations as well. So they're a real hub of information at the moment. And basically as well, I found the team to be extremely open, as I said, and very accessible, very friendly, but very able as well, and especially with helping us develop some bespoke training as well.
I think I can answer that in three ways. I think certainly the organisational ethos is particularly important. I think secondly the staff are hugely important, and I think that the way the organisation and the staff are responsive to individual needs, I think those are, I would say, the three key elements that make Participation Cymru so successful, and that's certainly from our experience as an organisation.
Participation Cymru is very well placed because it's obviously with the umbrella organisation of WCVA. It's had strong contacts with the voluntary sector and also is developing a lot of contacts now with the public sector. I think my only fear is that with it's building up a bank of information and knowledge about participation and it's developing the principles. It should be allowed, hopefully, to continue this good work, because I think that in future, citizen engagement will become even more important on the agenda for the public sector.
Again, it goes back to the organisational ethos, but particularly I think the founding principles of the organisation. So it's very much based on grassroots activity and supporting grassroots organisation. I think that has underpinned the way that it's been most successful, in that it has built up a body of individuals and a body of organisations that are very supportive of the work that they do, and therefore that has attracted political interest, and therefore that broadens and strengthens the remit for Participation Cymru undoubtedly. I think that it can then operate obviously in a much wider context, but I think that really wouldn't have been possible without the underpinning of those founding principles of working with grassroots organisations and the dogged determination of the committee and everyone else involved. It really does help underpin the work that you do and the persistence that's taken.
Well, I think for Participation Cymru and for all other public sector and third sector organisations, it's really important that we get the backing of the Welsh Assembly Government. So I think as Participation Cymru has got that, I think that's absolutely crucial. What I do think we need is a little bit more guidance from the Welsh Assembly as to how Participation Cymru and other organisations can go forward with citizen engagement. I think also that when I've been part of Participation Cymru events, that the training has been very well received, so I think that's all stand Participation Cymru in good stead in the future.
I think it is important that the broad spectrum of who Participation Cymru actually responds to. I think that's going to be crucially important in the future. I think in terms of how it's influencing us as an organisation now, well, I've had an awful lot of work that I've been doing with Participation Cymru in the past. So at the moment we're in a crossover period as far as our relationship is concerned with the organisation. But certainly I think in terms of the future, it's going to help us as an organisation in terms of, again, the range of partners that Participation Cymru becomes involved with. And that's crucial in the future for any organisation that's involved in this kind of work. Partnership is absolutely essential, and that helps us engage with lots of different networks that we haven't had access to before.
I'm fairly new to the advisory panel, but I think what I hope the advisory panel can do is act as a sounding board, really, so that you can get feedback from local authority and other organisations as to how your organisation is fulfilling their needs. So I think that's a really important role for the advisory panel. And I think from the local authority point of view, it adds a lot to what we're trying to do with citizen engagement. I mean, local authorities are at varying stages with citizen engagement, but all of them are keen to go ahead with it. So I think Participation Cymru, with their backing, that will be very helpful to us.
I think the role of the advisory panel is actually evolving now. When I first joined in 2008, it was very much finding out what is actually going on in the engagement agenda throughout Wales. And Participation Cymru, and especially WCVA, seemed to be the hub of information of what developments were being made. I think now the advisory panel can actually, as mature as someone, can actually start being more proactive and helping Participation Cymru to actually develop a strategic approach. Again, there's a good team in place now. They're growing from strength to strength. And I think with the advisory panel, we are also getting more experience on finding out what the agenda is for public engagement in Wales. And we can be of more help to them in the next year and the forthcoming years as well on how to progress that agenda.
We've only just started working with Participation Cymru, but I think they can help us to embed citizen engagement into the local authority agenda. Many local authorities have already got structures and strategies that they're taking forward, but they do need assistance from outside bodies.
Yeah, again, Participation Cymru has been particularly helpful. We've been meeting now for the past 18 months on how to develop an approach for the Wales Audit Office. They've been advising us on what can be done within our own context of work, and obviously we've been giving them information on what our needs are and our future approach as far as local government measure is concerned. And as a result, we've identified the fact that we need to undertake some specialist training. Although a lot of our staff have undertaken engagement work in the past, it's been very much they're bringing their own skills along with them, whereas we feel now we need to standardise to make sure that everybody's got the same standard of skills. And so we've invited Participation Cymru to come along and actually help organise a two-day training course for us in July. And I think that will help not only raise awareness amongst my colleagues, but also management as well, what exactly we do mean by participation. And also the fact that we can start undergoing some initiation and training as well, which I think we're going to find of great use out in the field.
We've had a fantastic time with Participation Cymru. When I was appointed as Public Consultation Coordinator for the museum, I attended one of the 3-day training sessions here. So I understood from the grassroots level, again, from working with volunteers, what the best practice is for engaging with communities, engaging with individuals. So I then took that back to the museum and I said, okay, well, what we need for the museum is a very bespoke training programme, because the model of the training that I attended was very much based on the voluntary sector, which is an element that we work with, but it's not the entirety of our work. So I worked very closely with Participation Cymru and some of the trainers to create a bespoke programme for training for our staff, and then we rolled that out across the organisation over a couple of years. And so I can happily say that yes, it is now firmly embedded in our organisation, and we do have a number of different sectors and members of our staff that would never have thought about engaging in this way, and it's very, very successful, and it's a continuing relationship. So yes, a very, very successful relationship.
I think the way it operates at the moment is it's quite effective in actually addressing the needs of practitioners, decision makers and policy makers. For starters, obviously, as we mentioned earlier on, we've got the advisory group, and obviously we have a large number of organisations attending the group from time to time. and they're very much influencing the decision makers, even if they don't take decisions themselves. And obviously we've got representations from WAG as well. And I find the advisory group a really good forum for good and open, honest discussion about the future of participation in Wales. But likewise as well, obviously Participation Cymru have organised events to encourage practitioners to come forward to help develop future sort of policy, well, as much policy as principles, and the ways forward to actually practice in the field as well. So I think more of that would be a good idea, to make sure that all organisations who are involved in participation at different levels and have an opportunity to influence on how the future of public engagement look like in Wales.
Well, I think that's really exemplified in the annual report that you've just produced, and also I think in the programme of work that's coming up. It's very much about the expertise of the individuals involved, being able to work at different levels and being able to advocate that the organisations that they work with can also, again, work at different levels. I think the expertise is valuable to policymakers and informers across the organisation, but I think it's definitely not a reactive situation. It's very much Participation Cymru being very proactive in this whole inquiry. And actually being very inquisitive and setting the agenda and not just waiting for the agenda to come to it. And I think that's crucially important. I think the more that we can be seen to be ahead of the game, and the more that the partners can be seen to be ahead of the game, leading the agenda, calling for things like national standards, I think the organisation will then improve its own profile and improve its advocacy for the whole of the engagement sector as a whole.